3, and we're here for file number MOD 0003-24 hearing. And at this time, I'll call for conflicts of interest.
Commissioner Williams has no conflicts.
Brian's not with us, right? Commissioner Korn has no conflicts. Is there anybody that needs any assistance with hearing or anything like that?
Before we move forward with this hearing, because I don't like continuances, if we are not going to have 3 commissioners, do we want to offer that as, because I will not agree to continue a hearing? Are you saying yes to what I'm?
Are we asking the applicant if they would like to wait until all 3 commissioners are present?
So whenever there are 2 commissioners, I always want to make sure that you know that there are 2 commissioners. So if you get a 1-to-1 vote, you do not get the opportunity of another person. I am not in the group of let's continue so that we see what the 3rd commissioner would have said. So I like to say that at the beginning before we go through a whole hearing with 2 commissioners. So any opinion on that from the applicant?
Jeremy Grimm, Whiskey Rock Planning Applicant's Representative. Commissioners, this application has been in with the county since 2024. There are many dollars at stake. We have a due process right to have this heard, which you're going to do. I believe you're going to be very comfortable and supportive based on all the accommodations we've made. In the event that you reach a split decision on this, that would be something my client needs to assess post-decision. But at this point, time is of the essence, and we have been waiting since 2024, the date of the submission of this application, to have action taken. So let's move forward.
Okay, at this time, we'll turn it over to planning.
Thank you, Commissioners. Jason Johnson, Bonner County Planning. We are here today to talk about file MOD 0003-24, modification of the Trestle Creek project. So the applicant today is requesting some specific things. They're requesting to modify some previous approvals, conditional use permit CUP 0006-20, short subdivision SS 0006-20, and modification MOD 0001-20. The proposed modifications include enlargement of the upland open space and common area by 0.51 acres through the retention of man-made islands, replacement of the 0.43 acre common recreational lot with a 0.46 acre single-family residential lot, replacement of the 1.6 acre turnaround area with a residential lot, reduction of the number of boat slips of the proposed marina from 88 to 288 from 105, provision of public lease slips in the proposed marina, a timeline extension request to summer of 2028 for final plat and CUP issuance, acknowledgement in the application of the transfer of approximately 5.79 acres of abutting land, including the mouth of Trestle Creek to the Kalispell tribe, and restoration of the north branch of Trestle Creek to restore its natural outflow to the lake. On screen there is an aerial of the site along with the dates that the required noticing was done on this file. The site is partly vacant with mixed use plan for the site. 3 parcels in question, approximately 24.4 acres altogether. The site has frontage on and is accessed via North Park Road, a private road, and State Highway 200 owned by Idaho Transportation Department. The water is going to be provided by a proposed public water system. The site is mapped in the Trestle Creek Sewer District. However, a community leach field is proposed for the site. The application states that power is provided per Avista. The site is in the San Moen Fire District and Lake Monterey School District number 84. The site does contain a few mapped slopes, some mapped wetlands. It does contain river stream frontage on Lake Monterey. The site is within a special flood hazard area, zone AE, at least partly. Trestle Creek borders the southern portion of the site. The mapped soil type for the site is Bonner Sill Loam and is classified as prime farmland. Portions of the site are mapped as critical habitat for bull trout. On the screen there are the comp plan designation, zoning designation, and land use for the site as well as sites surrounding the site in question. Again, there's an aerial view of the site highlighted in blue. Here we have the zoning and the land use designation map for the site. The site does have mapped wetlands on it. The site does have a very few steep slopes on it. The site is mapped as prime farmland. The site is mostly within a floodplain. This is the proposed site plan, the modified site plan for the CUP that we're here to talk about today. The following agencies on screen commented on this file. We got a couple of no comments as well. All other agencies did not reply, and public comments have been received and added to the record, and all these public and agency comments have been forwarded to the decision-making body. So we're here today to talk about a modification per BCRC 12-266D. The standards in this review are required to be consistent with the original standards in the original decisions. And we're only here today to review the modified portions of this proposal. We are not here today to re-review the previously approved applications. They are approved years ago, appeal periods long expired. So the following standards apply to this request. The first is BCRC 12-266, telling us how to modify a permit, and then the terms of all the previously approved permits, which apply to this request. So going through the code requirements first, BCRC 12-266A. The BOCC is tasked with modifying this decision, and they retain final decision-making responsibility because they were previously in that role on these files. BCRC 12-266B, the application was submitted on the correct forms and appropriate fees were paid. And 266C, public hearings will be scheduled, notices provided, which is what we're here doing today. 266D, the standards review is required to be consistent with the original standards in the original decisions. And this process may only review the modified portions of the proposal. This is not a re-review of the previously approved application. And this review will also look different than a standard CUP would look if it was applied for newly today, because we are reviewing according to the standards of the previous decisions, not according to current code. That's not how modifications get done. They have to be reviewed under the standards that were approved in the original decision. And per BCRC 12-266E, decision will be rendered consistent with the modification requirements of code. So the following standards come from the original plat decision, SS 0006-20. There'll be a lot of things in here where the answer is going to be no part of the proposal modifies the findings, because this is a minor modification. It doesn't change every aspect of the decision. We were not required to do a zone change for this proposal. We were not required to, no lots have been short platted here in the last 2 years. Depth to width ratios on the lots aren't strictly compliant. However, the general depth to width ratios in this modification request are dictated by the shapes and sizes of the lots that were already approved. Lots 2 through 5 in this case were already approved and are not a part of this modification proposal. They're fixed. The dimensions of these approved lots dictate the ratios of the modified lots. As far as submerged lands go, the submerged lands are not being counted toward lot size minimums. As far as services and utilities go, water and sewer systems are already approved under a previous decision. Updated versions of the water and sewer plan have to be approved by the Bonner County engineer prior to permit issuance. Again, as before, sewer and water systems were approved previously and have to be approved by the Bonner County engineer prior to issuance of an approval. As far as the fire assessment and fire planning goes, fire protection was already addressed under the previous approval, and the modification here, the new fire turnaround, has been approved by the San Moen Fire District. As far as road naming goes, that hasn't changed. Roads and access, new road standards. The road system was approved under the previous decision. An updated roads plan is being submitted and must be approved by the Bonner County engineer prior to issuance of an approval on this. Same thing with roads and access and frontage requirements. The road system was already approved, and the updated version has been submitted and just needs a final approval from the engineer. As far as trails and parks go, no part of this proposal modifies the findings in the original decision. As for natural hazards, the application proposal in this case is substantially similar to the original approved proposal. This isn't a re-review of the previous application, and this modification appears to reduce and mitigate impacts relative to the original proposal. For example, restoring the stream outflow, retaining the islands, and reducing the number of boat slips. This also applies to shoreline standards as well as the wetland standards. Any additional development within the site will be required to comply with Bonner County shoreline rules and will be required to comply with Bonner County wetland rules. As far as grading, stormwater, and erosion control goes, those plans were already approved under the previous decision. The updated plans have been submitted and they have to be approved by the Bonner County engineer prior to issuance of an approval. As far as wildlife goes, same thing for wildlife and hillsides and waterfront property standards. In all cases, this application is substantially similar to the original approved proposal. We're not here to re-review the previous application. This modification is reducing and mitigating impacts by restoring the stream outflow, retaining the islands, and reducing the number of boat slips. And no part of this proposal modifies anything relating to BCRC 12-627. Getting into the conditional use permit, the same rules apply. The standards of this review are required to be consistent with the original standards of the original CUP decision and may only review modified portions of the proposal. This is not a re-review of the previous application, and the following review is going to be consistent with the requirements originally applied. So a conditional use permit was required and submitted, and modifications of approved PUDs are allowed per BCRC 12-266. As far as the PUD classifications and minimums and the uses permitted, no part of the proposal is modifying the findings in the original decision. As far as common open space goes, it has grown by 0.51 acres, and so no part of the decision here today is going to affect the previous decision. We're not proposing any changes to the homeowners association in the application, no changes to covenants or articles of incorporation. As far as density goes, the density that is proposed is less than the standard density allowed in the zone of 1 unit per 1 acre. And we have enlarged, we see that the applicant has enlarged the open space in common areas. This is also true for the public amenities requirement. No new uses are proposed. Single-family dwellings are permitted in the zone. BCRC 12-333 is the commercial table. No changes to commercial uses are proposed, so no part of the proposal changes that. BCRC 12-335 is public use table. There are some upgrades to public use amenities like the retention of the islands, restoring the stream outflow, and enlarging the open space and common area by 0.51 acres. As far as emissions go, this proposal is substantially similar to the original proposal. We're not re-reviewing the original application. No new uses are proposed, and this modification appears to reduce and mitigate impacts as previously mentioned. The traffic plan, the road system was already approved under the previous decision, and an updated roads plan has been submitted and must be submitted to the Bonner County engineer prior to issuance of an approval. As far as BCRC 12-412, the residential density, the open space has been enlarged by 1/2 an acre, and the proposed density is less than the standard density allowed under code. No part of this proposal is proposing to modify any setback requirements or off-street parking requirements. Again, noise, light, glare, odors, fumes, and vibrations. The application proposal is substantially similar to the original approved proposal, and this modification appears to reduce and mitigate impacts relative to the original proposal. As far as lot design and ratios go, as previously mentioned, not all of the ratios in the new proposed lots strictly comply. However, lots 2 through 5 were already approved in this and are not subject to re-review. So the dimensions of these approved lots necessarily dictate the ratios of the modified lots. The ratios of the approved lots are also dependent on the location of the road, whose location, of course, was already approved. Submerged lands have not been included in the calculations for determining the maximum density for the proposed subdivision. Water, sewer systems, and fire protection were already approved under the previous proposal. The new fire turnaround has been approved by the Samoan Fire District. Water and sewer plans, the updated versions, have to be approved by the Bonner County engineer prior to issuance. The same thing is true with the road plan. Its location and plan were already approved, and its update just has to get final approval from the engineer prior to permit issuance. For environmental features, no part of this proposal modifies any findings in the original document or in the original requirement relative to BCRC 12-626A. As far as 12-626B goes, the application is substantially similar to the original proposal. We're not re-reviewing the previous application. This is reducing and mitigating impacts, or at least it appears to, by restoring the stream outflow, retaining the islands, and reducing the number of available boat slips. Any additional development outside of this will be required to comply with Bonner County environmental rules. And of course, again, going back to the depth to width ratios on the lots, the depth to width ratios on the new lots are dictated by the depth to width ratios of lots 2 through 5, which are fixed and not subject to re-review. As far as BCRC 12-633A, 633B, 633C, 633D3, no part of the proposal modifies the findings in the original decision in relation to any of these requirements. For BCRC 12-633E and F, the same applies. No part of the proposal modifies the findings in the original decision in relation to any of those requirements. As far as common open space requirements and sewage disposal facilities, water and sewer systems were already approved under the previous decision, and updated versions of the water and sewer plan just have to be approved by the engineer prior to permit issuance. Preservation of common open space standards per 12-633H. Open space and common areas have been enlarged by 0.51 acres, and other than that, no part of this proposal is modifying the original decision. 12-633K1. For cluster lots, the clustering of the lots was already decided with lots 2 through 5 and was decided based on where the road system is already placed, which was already approved. That updated roads plan has been submitted and must be approved by the Bonner County engineer prior to issuance of an approval. And as far as minimum lot size go, again, lots 2 through 5 were already approved. The 2 areas that are proposed to be converted into residential lots were also already approved, so their sizes are pretty much dictated by the previous decision. And so that's what's dictating the dimensions of the new lots, the new residential lots that are proposed. The applicant isn't requesting a reduction in setbacks. There's no multi-dwelling units that are proposed. As far as setting aside open space, that was done in the previous decision and can't be modified, but the applicant is proposing to increase the open space and common area by 0.51 acres. (12-256G). No part of the proposal is modifying the findings from the original decision. BCRC 12-412. We've increased the, we see that the open space and common area has been increased, and the proposed density again is less than the standard density allowed in the zone. As far as minimum lot sizes, those were already approved under the previous decision. and the sizes of the new proposed lots are dictated by what was already approved. As far as BCRC 12-412, 12-432, Note 5 and Note 3, and 12-621, no part of this proposal is modifying anything in the original decision in relation to those requirements. As far as road network design standards, the road network was already approved under the previous decision. An updated roads plan has been submitted. Just needs final approval from the Bonner County engineer prior to issuance of an approval. The proposed road plan is substantially similar to the plan originally proposed. This also applies to 12-642D for road frontage requirements. As far as BCRC 12-713, 12-733B, 12-4.5, 12-4.6, 12-486B through I, no part of this proposal modifies the findings in the original decision in relation to any of those requirements. As far as services and utilities goes, as previously stated, the water and sewer systems were already approved under the previous decision, and updated versions of the water and sewer plan just need final approval from the Bonner County engineer. Road system was already approved under the previous decision. An updated roads plan accommodating the modifications has been submitted and must be approved by the Bonner County engineer prior to issuance of an approval. As far as comprehensive plan review goes, per BCRC 12-266D, as previously stated, the standards in this review are required to be consistent with the original standards in the original CUP decision and may only review the modified portions of the proposal. This is not a re-review of the previous application. This proposal does not appear to conflict with the comp plan standards as reviewed under the original decisions. And this proposal is discussed in detail relative to those individual standards from the previous decisions in the staff report. This has been reviewed so many times and conditioned so many ways that in this case, only a couple of conditions of approval are proposed. First, that any modification shall be developed and shall be operated in accordance with the approved site plan, and that the modification shall be developed and shall be operated in accordance with previous decisions in conditional use permit CUP 0006-20, short subdivision file SS 0006-20, and modification MOD 0001-22, except as modified by this decision. That is another view of the proposed site plan, and that concludes my presentation. Were there any questions?
Can we confirm there is a request for an 2-year extension to 2028 can we confirm for the record whether or not an extension was already requested and when does the current expire?
The current expiration date I would refer to the applicant's representative, but yes, they are requesting a 2-year extension to 2028.
So your staff report didn't mention when they applied?
They applied many times, so
what's the date that the county would say they were using as the date? Because they have to apply before it expires, and then we can give them 2 additional years. So that's one of the things they're asking for. So from a county standpoint, we should be saying our position and then the applicant. Or the applicant can whisper to the county what the answer is, and then they can repeat the answer.
Alex Van, interim planning director. So this was originally approved in 2022 or 2020?
well, the first part was approved in 2020.
Okay.
The last part was in 2022.
Yeah, so this is a planned unit development. Planned unit developments allow for a 4-year approval or a 4-year expiration. This has been modified once in 2022. Last year in 2024, this was extended, and the board granted a 1-year extension.
So before Mr. Grimm tells you the answer, it's incumbent upon the staff to know the answer from which we're using the date, because they're only entitled to one. And so we need to have the timeline correct from when did they, that's still given the answer if you show them the note. I can see.
It's just the decision on the strike.
It's incumbent on the staff to say the timeline for the application, because part of their ask is only allows us to make a decision one time. So we have to pick the correct timeline. So do we need to take a break for us to investigate the timeline for their extension request?
I'm happy to look in the county's records, so we have the county's answer.
So I would
rather than
like the
applicant's.
county to come up with the answer is from the county's perspective, and I'm sure that Mr. Grimm, when he presents from his side, will have a date, but it's our responsibility to do that for us, please.
Yep, I
Because
can
I
have
couldn't
that.
tell that from the application.
I can have that momentarily.
Thank you. That's the only question I had for staff.
Okay. Would you like to switch out, or we still want to wait till home? So I don't have any questions either for planning, but we'll wait on the Commissioner Williams' question there.
So on November 19th at the business meeting, the board,
What year?
2024, the board extension, or allowed for an extension of 2 years at that point. The original expiration was January 15th, 2025. And the board extended it to January 15th, 2027.
So this applicant already received 2 extensions?
They've been given 1 extension.
So in 2024, they got a 2-year extension. And so when you go through the modifications, this came in 2020, and they get 4 years to complete it. So there's an extension that's already been given.
That's correct.
So then the question that I'll have for staff is, when it talks about extensions, we're being asked to give a second extension.
I will look at the PUD code. I'm not as familiar with the PUD code, as we don't get very many of them.
So when you look at 122661 extension of the expiration date, is that where you're looking for?
No,
Where are you
I'm
looking?
looking at 12-258.
So you're going
under
into the PUD?
Yep, under the PUD. So there is it's a 4-year approval. And then it says that an extension of time request not to exceed 2 years may be granted by the Board of County Commissioners. The request shall be made in writing prior to the expiration date and shall state the reasons why the extension is needed and how the developer intends to progress with the project. If it is found that the intent of the PUD approval is merely for speculation purposes, the extension shall not be granted. Typically, in our code, it says that they're allowed 1 extension. This does not clear of whether or not they are
It
allowed
said they're
1 or
allowed
more.
3. Okay. Thank you. I pulled the PUD and our 12266 extension, and it does say 1. That's why I wanted clarification on, did they technically get an extension already? And it sounds like on November 19th, 2024, they received a 2-year extension.
They have.
They are asking for a second extension.
That appears so, that's
Okay,
correct.
Thank you.
I have no questions. Do you have any further questions, Commissioner?
No, sir.
So we want to bring the applicant up at this time.
Alex, there's some of the a different hearing information in that electronic folder under Trestle Creek, the one that we had at 10 that we might want to pull out.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners. Jeremy Grimm, Whiskey Rock Planning Consulting, representing Valiant Idaho 2 LLC on the Idaho Club Marina and Lakeshore Community Project. File MOD 003-24, which is a modification of various files as staff reference CUP 0006-20, SS 006-20, MOD 0001-22. So off we go. First and foremost, Commissioner Corn, you're new to this, and I think Commissioner Williams as well. Just a little bit of background. Obviously, I think we're all familiar, but I wanted to just call out the geographical area that we're talking about. Trestle Creek circled in red on the screen. From up above, you can take a view down. This red polygon represents the approximate location of the property in question. This is an interesting one. So this is a snapshot of the vicinity. And what you'll see here, what I'm trying to emphasize here is this is all private property, hundreds of addresses, fairly intensively developed. Prior to the applicant's ownership of this, there were just two pieces of public or protected property, that U.S. government Army Corps land to the north and the boat launch to the south. And what I'm highlighting here is as a direct result of this applicant and hearing from the public concerns about the area, that middle section has been added as protected land and transferred to the tribe, Kalispel tribe. My point here is that the area for an observer is fairly intensely developed already. Bit of history on this project. If you were here, I think you may have been, but back in 1988, this was the Idaho Country Campground. It was an RV park and a marina. It included docks, a boat ramp. It included various amenities. Here are some photos, what it looked like in its demise. We had Dodge Caravan, woody versions with no tires on them sitting next to the creek. We had tarps and garbage and other things adjacent to the creek. If you had been here in pre-2000, you would have seen what the marina and campground looked like. It had docks, it had RV sites, it had moorage, and it's fallen obviously into a state of disrepair at this point. These are just some relatively current photos of the state of the site. We do have docks in a state of disrepair and hazard. We have unsightly and, just sad kind of old residual development infrastructure. You can see some more of the docks in this photo and moorage along the property. The old bridge that used to connect the islands is somewhat decrepit. And here's another version or picture of the bridge. So this is helpful for you just to get up to speed. This is sort of the existing conditions. These are the existing conditions. And what I point out here is we've got the mainland along the highway, we've got the railroad, we've got the mainland again, and we've got a channel, we've got two islands, and I'll call it the thumbs up, a little peninsula that kicks out there. So the existing conditions are what we're most accurately trying to have the least impact on in this development. So there was some history. Some have suggested that there have been lots of changes, but there really haven't been. But you should be aware that originally this property was approved by Bonner County for 96 units, including condominiums, 105 boat dock slips, parking, etc. And of course, a lot of that development was approved for the land that has been transferred to the Kalispel tribe on the south side. So then, of course, the Idaho Club and related parties went bankrupt, as we discussed earlier today, and new owners came in on this parcel. And this is what is currently approved. And this is what we're, it's a little different. This modification, typically a modification or often comes in to say, we want to do more. In this case, the owners, myself, have heard at length from the public, and we have worked very hard to make some modifications that make this project less intense, lower intensity in terms of its impact on the area and its use. But just to clarify, this is what's approved. Strangely enough, if you did reach a tie vote, your underlying decision would stand, which would mean this, basically, approval, the approval that's on the books right now. Couple of things to note, the primary area is being changed. I didn't make my red polygons bold enough here. Oh, it does let me use the cursor. Up north here, these two lots, this was going to be a pavilion and an open space lot for use for all Idaho Club members. And then these two red areas, this is basically the islands that were going to be removed. And then this was going to be backfilled with soil. This was all going to be filled. So those are the primary changes. I'll get into some of the details of what's actually changing. So why are we here, asking for a modification? Well, we listen. Outside of this jurisdiction, we've had some public hearings with Idaho Department of Lands. We received a lot of feedback and comment. But what we're trying to change, and based on what we heard, is that the islands and the intensity of the project were great. So the modifications leave the islands, including the one with the Eagle's Nest. It eliminates the channel fill, significant fill that was going to bring the shoreline further lakeward. There was concerns about the exclusivity of the marina. The marina is now public marina, not just for Idaho Club members. We did, although not required, include the stream restoration. The land, there's lots of comments about protecting this land and Trestle Creek specifically. Through the ownership, the land has been transferred to the Kalispel tribe, almost 6 acres. And it's my understanding they intend to protect that. The marina size has been reduced from 105 to 88 slips. And finally, increase of upland open space by more than a half acre, primarily from the retention of the islands. So overall, this modification is lower intensity, reduction of marina slips, elimination of the pavilion and event space, which would have brought gatherings, large gatherings and intensity to the site. The islands aren't moved and the marina is public. So when you look at this modification, here's what I'm calling the new design, but it's really not that new. And these green arrows really, or stars really point out the areas. So starting at the top, those two lots, those two northern stars, again, those were going to be an open space and a pavilion. They're now just residential lots. So no large group gatherings there from the Idaho Club, concerts or whatnot. As we move down, that next star is the channel and the island. The island that remains. The star to the left of that is the island of the Eagle's Nest that remains. And then finally, the star on the left is the reduced size marina down to 88 slips. When we talk about the modifications that will be made to accommodate access and flow, I say the islands will be remain, but there is some dredging, so that you can get through more easily with a watercraft. And that star to the north is the one area that would be dredged, and then the center star, and then that lower star. So some fairly minimal dredging, but the islands in their existing configuration generally remain, which was a big concern of the public. This is just a visual so you can imagine where that star is. That's sort of the area that would be dredged out so you could pass through there during high water to do a loop or a circle. If you're not familiar, this green area is south of the proposed project and or the approved project. This is the area that was transferred to the Kalispel tribe, the almost 6 acres of land.
Can I ask a question about that real quick? So is that the area that Trestle Creek is in, the creek
Correct.
itself?
Correct, and I have another slide that'll clarify
Okay,
that a little bit
thanks.
for you. So I can say without a doubt, any project I've ever worked on, more regulatory approval than I imagined was even possible, starting with ITD, route for the highway, Department of the Interior, Fish and Wildlife, Idaho DEQ, even the U.S. Coast Guard, believe it or not. In fact, I can say without a doubt, and I did misspeak at the planning commission meeting, we had authorization, but we now actually have every single federal, state environmental permit, clearance, and issuance for this project. And this may make your eyes roll back, but I'll just run through them. For the Clean Water Act Section 404 permit, this was issued by the U.S. Army Corps on September 29th, 2025. Prior to the issuance, the Corps completed a NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act review, and issued its record of decision. We have approval from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. They issued their letter of concurrence on July 30th, 2025 regarding the effects of the project to special species and habitats listed on the Endangered Species Act. We have received an Eagle's Nest disturbance permit. We do not intend to touch the Eagle's Nest, but that goes into if there's activity hours, if there's observed eagles in the nest, we want to have boots and suspenders and make sure we have every permit we need. The U.S. Coast Guard, August 9, 2024, they have a exemption permit we've been issued. As it relates to the Clean Water Act, Section 401 water quality certification was issued by the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality on August 20th, 2025. DEQ concluded the activity as proposed will comply with water quality protections requirements and both state and federal water quality standards. As it relates to the Clean Water Act, Section 402 National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, general permit coverage was issued by the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality on September 26, 2025 through the IPDES system. In terms of the Idaho Department of Lands, who regulates encroachment permits and construction for marinas and shoreline protections, that was issued on January 10th, 2025. And finally, the Idaho Department of Water Resource stream channel alteration permit for the restoration of the North Branch of Trestle Creek was issued October 9th, 2025. I know from previous experience, commissioners are often concerned about other regulatory bodies and protecting the public health and welfare and interest. In this case, on this modification, on this project, every single permit required under the law has been secured and achieved. So it's kind of speaking to Commissioner Korn's question. This is an overview of the site, and it's kind of interesting. I guess the first thing I point to, that top red star, that is the project site, and that's where the marina would be. And if you look just below that, you see this light gray spit. That is a very significant gravel bar that stretches way out into the lake. Boat traffic to the marina is likely, and the majority of it, unless you have a very shallow prop, will be coming in the alignment of that green double-ended arrow there. As we head down a little further south, you'll see this is actually Trestle Creek right here. It comes up through the Kalispel. That green is the land that's been dedicated to the Kalispel tribe or transferred to them. So this is the flow of Trestle Creek. And what's interesting is Jeb and Margaret's Marina here, their outflow and their boat access is actually right in that vicinity. So I bring this up because there's been a lot of conversation that this is somehow going to impact Trestle Creek, but if you're familiar, as I am, having spent more than 40 days sleeping on this property in the last 2 summers, I had my RV out there. This is how the boat traffic has to flow to the marina. This is literally a prop shearer right here, this whole shallow gravel bar. That's just sort of to explain the lay of the land for you. Talk briefly about the stream restoration that we've been permitted. This will bring the north branch of Trestle Creek back to its original alignment with Trestle Creek. That north branch was a man-made diversion that you can see here back in who knows when, likely unpermitted, no one can find a permit. And it basically sent the water through the woods into the former marina as a source of refresh water. Of course, there's a lot of challenges with that, fry and other things. I'm not a biologist, I'm not a wildlife expert, but I am a fisherman and a guide, and those fry go into this marina where there's a lot of bass and pike and other predatory fish. So the project will clean that up, and what it will do is it'll bring that north branch back into the main channel with one of the foremost restoration companies in the country, and it allows out-migrating fry and juvenile fish to go straight out to the lake where the water's cooler and deeper. Just for awareness, this is Trestle Creek on the right. What we're talking about is a project on the other side of the land, west of Trestle Creek, 150 feet on the other side of this land. So the project does not directly touch or impact Trestle Creek. So the takeaways, this is a currently approved project, although we would agree that the feedback from the public has been helpful and that we have found a preferred alternative. The modifications improve the project in part based on that public comment. It's lower intensity by increasing low open space, reducing land disturbance, and reduces fill. The fill now is in fact less than 1/10 of an acre, just on one minor portion. This project has had exhaustive review. All state and federal permits have been issued. All county requirements, plans, storm, erosion control, et cetera, are in place. And per the staff report, all pertinent sections, standards of Bonner County Revised Code have been met. The zoning has been established a long time ago, and the property owners have rights established by Idaho Code and Bonner County Code. And those rights are just that they meet the standards established by your zoning and your revised code. So in short, this is a unsightly area, potentially a public hazard because it's inviting to people to come and peruse that and potentially get caught up on these old improvements. It really is the time to restore it and improve the property. I understand that the definition of improvement is each their own, but what we've brought forward here is a modification that is more than a compromise. It is a significant step towards meeting the public comments that we heard. The Idaho Club is a good neighbor, will be a good neighbor, supports tremendous nonprofit work in the community, and we are excited to move forward with this project. And finally, great question, Commissioner Williams. The reason the 2-year extension was requested and may seem to conflict is that the application was put in before the extension was granted. So the application was put in early 2024. We saw that it was not moving very quickly through the process, so I said, we need an extension. So the extension that's granted to January 15, 2027 is fine. You can strike that from the request unless you feel it's important to give the parties time to do that. So with that, we just humbly request support for this modification and the recognition that this is an approved project, and failure to support the modification means a approval of the project that is greater intensity and would mean removal of islands and related elements. With that, I would stand for any questions that you might have, Commissioners.
I would ask at this time, having heard staff report and the applicant, do you feel the need to ask legal to stay for the rest of the hearing?
Mm,
They seem to always want you to be able to go back to work for some.
I don't see anything that would require, because we're taking the extension, the second extension off the table. Is that what I just heard?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't
Take
need
it
to
off when I
dive
ask the
into
question, but yeah.
that one. I think that was my
Unless
only
you'd like to
concern.
stay. Okay. I like emailed you like 5 times. too. Thank you.
If there's no other questions, I'll see you at rebuttal. Any other questions?
You have any further?
No, I think that you guys did a good job of recognizing community input, and I think that's important to recognize when the developer does see that. Because I think that there was things addressed that community brought forward in other hearings. Thank you.
All right. At this time, we're going to take public comment. Public comment for the changes. All right, public comment for the changes in the room. How about public comment online? Oops, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I do. You can go with online first.
Okay. Is there any public comment online that support the changes? Seeing none, you can go ahead and,
Nobody, oh, okay.
there isn't.
Well, I thought Jennifer Ekstrom was going to comment.
I did not see any hands up there.
Yeah, I know she'd
Oh,
like to.
there she is.
Yeah.
Jennifer?
Hi, thank you. Jennifer Ekstrom here. I thought you were calling for the public comments that were in favor of the modification.
I was.
Okay, I will wait.
Okay.
Are you in favor of the modifications as submitted?
I don't know how to phrase it, but I'm in favor of prolonging this. I have some things to say and some.
So you're not in favor of the modification, because they're asking to get approval to move forward with their changes, so.
No.
Okay. And I would say you're also not neutral, so you're gonna wait till the third one.
I would probably fit you in that position. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, how about public comment for neutral on these changes in the room? Seeing none, is there any public comment online neutral for these changes? Seeing none, we will move to public comment in the room against the changes.
You're up.
Thank you.
You were moving slow, I'm like,
Okay, here or there.
whichever.
Okay. Yeah, this,
If you could state your name
Oh, yeah.
and county residence, please.
Don Holland, 200 Amber Drive, Sandpoint, Idaho, 50 years in Sandpoint in Bonner County. Yeah, Jeremy, I heard you just starting off say that you've evidently talked and negotiated with some of the public after some of the hearings we had at the auditorium with IDL. Did you do that with Idaho Conservation League?
So, sir, this isn't a
Oh,
question
I
time.
can't do that? Okay.
This is just,
Well, let me just go on this then. I have some observations that I think are important and need to be stated and restated because several of my concerns have never been answered since the beginning of this application process for Idaho Club. And it has to do with the preservation of our ecology, mainly, and the location of where this applicant wants to have a development. Let's see. Oh, excuse me. I want to give you a couple of charts if I could. Is that allowed? Good.
So I'm gonna pause you. Does somebody have 3 minutes to spare, because you get a 3-minute public comment?
Okay.
And your clock's running.
Oh, Well, let me start over. Please. My fault with not being prepared with these. 1 and 2. Okay. These charts by our State Department of Fish and Game were started in 1983, called the Ponderay Basin Bull Trout Red Monitoring Annual Project Survey. And bull trout reds are a nest made by spawning bull trout. It reports annually on the number of bull trout migrating up Trestle Creek. This project represents the only empirical evidence that I know you asked for, Jeremy, and that I'm aware of. And the federally listed endangered species bull trout in Trestle Creek. Trestle Creek was one of the largest spawning corridors in Lake Ponderay. Chart 1 shows, if you'll look at it, please, the struggle the bull trout are now having in the last 10 years trying to reach their 10-year migration average. 7 out of the last 10 years, the trout have not reached their 10-year average. That's 70% of the time. In the last 3 years, they have never met their 10-year average. Last 3 years, 100% they haven't done it. The number of reds indicated the number of spawning bull trout. In the last 10 years, reds have averaged 92, okay? In the last 10 years, the nests of bull trout averaged 92 a year. This year, as of today, I just got the information, those nests are 36. 36 reds. That's the lowest number we've ever had. I haven't heard the Idaho Club ever mention this study in their discussions of Trestle Creek development, let alone reckon with it. Just hasn't been done. It's been ignored, never brought up. In the last 2 hearings by the Idaho Department of Lands at our high school auditorium for the Idaho Club application, their director, Dennis Miller, who is the director of Idaho
Mr. Holland,
IDL.
can I ask you to wrap it up because we're out of time, please? Unless there's someone in the room that would like to donate Mr. Holland
Somebody
for 3
donate?
minutes.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dennis Miller, in his analysis, in recommending approval of this development twice in years 23 and 24, he never mentions this study, the only empirical evidence, and let alone reckons with it. I called Mr. Miller's office after each of the hearings to ask why the study was not acknowledged and contained in the analysis. Of course, I didn't get a hold of Mr. Miller, but the Idaho General Counsel did call me back. Said, "What's up?" I gave him my concerns. He said, "It shouldn't be a problem. I'm sure Dennis is aware of that." That was it. It's 2 years in a row. It hasn't been mentioned in the analysis from the Idaho Department of Lands. In the first year, I could say, well, it's an administrative error, clerical error. No, it's intentional not mentioning it, in my opinion, at this time, until otherwise I asked them why they hadn't. Okay, I made the calls. I never did get anything resembling an answer. Why isn't this being brought up? I would hope our county commissioners will look at this analysis, this study, for what it is, ask questions, be clear-minded about it, what's at stake, which way we're going, what can be done, what can be protected, and get a clearer picture of this troubling situation. In taking time to understand all the collective ramifications of this development from its beginning to now. Our Department of Fish and Game commented at the last IDL meeting at the Sandpoint Auditorium, and I quote, "The Department of Fish and Game has concerns on the location of the project." Okay, the location of the project and the possible effects on fish and wildlife. This quote shows the risk of the location to bull trout and begs the question, do we really believe that allowing all the noise and trucks, the haulings in and out, large machinery, demoing and constructing, redefining the shoreline, the lake bottom, increased recreational crowds, etc., will ever enhance and give a better future for the endangered species that is experiencing a very, very major struggle at this time. Down to 36 reds this year. So commissioners, please take the time to review all the evidence, follow our county standards, protect the fisheries and ecology, ask questions. If these things aren't clear, don't hit the accelerator. If things are uncertain and foggy, then what do you do when you're in a car? You slow down. Simply put, this development's location is at the wrong place at the wrong time. Thanks for your accommodation.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the room that would like to speak against the changes? Seeing none, is there anyone online that would like to speak against the changes? Jennifer. Jennifer, you're muted if you would like to speak.
Apologies, that took a minute. Thank you very much, commissioners. My name is Jennifer Ekstrom. I work with the Idaho Conservation League, and I'm pleased for the opportunity to speak with you about this project. The project before you is clearly out of accord with Idaho's Local Land Use Planning Act, with the applicable versions of Bonner County's Comprehensive Plan and Bonner County's Code. We did submit detailed comments to that effect last week, so we thank you very much for your consideration of those comments. But what I want to say now, I won't belabor those comments. What I want to say is that since this project has been altered so extensively since the previous approval, it must only be considered now as a new application. I also want to emphasize that the modifications that have been discussed today do not alleviate our extensive concerns about impacts to natural resources, including water, floodplain, wetlands, shorelines, endangered species, and nor do the modifications alleviate our concerns about the project's compliance with the law. Also, I question the statement made earlier regarding the statement about the sewer services being previously approved for the project. The Idaho Conservation League recently heard from Panhandle Health District indicating that they had not yet approved a community sewer system for this project. So I think clarification there is needed. Despite the modifications, this project stands to cause great detriment to the bull trout in Trestle Creek. And just because there is already development in the area does not mean that additional development is not going to harm those endangered species to a greater degree. It absolutely will. At this point, I'd say it's incumbent upon the Bonner County Board of County Commissioners to deny this modification request and require the applicant to submit an updated proposal that clearly articulates a project that is in accord with the Land Use Planning Act, the Bonner County Comprehensive Plan, and Bonner County Code. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online that would like to speak negative against the changes that are proposed?
I'm going to call for 5 because I have to respond to something.
You want me to call for 5?
5 minutes. Sorry.
5, you sure?
Yeah.
5?
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll work in 5.
Okay, we're going to take at this time, public comment is closed, and we're going to take a 5-minute recess. So we'll come back at 2:43.
I was waiting to see if you were.
43, and we're coming out of recess. The applicant like a rebuttal or?
We don't have insurance to cover that, so
I do.
walk slowly.
Let's see, am I able to get back to this? Let's see. Share. Commissioners, thanks so much. Jeremy Grimm for the record, Whiskey Rock Planning and Consulting. A few things that were raised by the public in objecting to this modification. First, one member of the public, Mr. Holland, talked about the reds and the declining reds. Although I would agree that that should be a concern of everyone in our community, in our environment. The authority having jurisdiction is the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. If you're not familiar, they have the final say on the and enforce the Endangered Species Act. They have provided a biological review of this project and have issued all permits required and concurrences, as is demonstrated in our document here. U.S. Fish and Wildlife issued a concurrence letter on July 30th, 2025 regarding the effects of the project to species and habitat listed under the Endangered Species Act, U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So that it hasn't been ignored. It has been addressed by the jurisdiction and the entity who has authority over that, and that is the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. They are the experts about endangered species. All we can do is say, this is the entity that regulates this, what say you? And they have said, proceed. Next, I want to segue here and say I know ICL sees this project differently at this point than I do. They've been very helpful in our city sewer bond. Great appreciation for their assistance with that, working towards clean water. But in this case, this seems a little bit like a red herring. To suggest that, one, the project's not approved currently, which it is, to suggest that it somehow violates or is inconsistent with the comp plan and zoning, to suggest that it's not, what we're asking for is not a reduction, a reduction of intensity, reduction of impact, reduction of scale. I hope you don't see it that way, because this is a significant reduction across the board, as I described. So I recognize that not all parties are going to come to a kumbaya and celebrate this project, but from the perspective of the applicant, we have worked very hard to try to respond to the public comments we heard about the impact and concerns that the public had with this development. And then finally, regarding Panhandle Health, the Drainfield site was preliminarily approved, and wastewater plans and specs have been approved by DEQ. So anything regarding that has been addressed by DEQ, the jurisdictional authority there. So in conclusion, commissioners, we really and humbly ask that you accept this modification. We believe it's in the best interest of the community. It's more than a middle ground. It's achieved a lot that lowers the intensity of this development, as stated. I won't go through that again. And appreciate your consideration and would answer any other questions you might have.
I don't have any questions.
I don't have any questions either. Thank you. Does planning have anything they want to add? So public comment has been closed.
No exceptions?
No exception, sorry. If we make an exception, we have to make an exception, then,
Well, they happen, don't they?
no, not in,
Okay.
not in a hearing case.
All right.
Yep, sorry. So at this time, I would open the board deliberation.
Are you wanting me to deliberate?
Sure.
So one of the things that I want to state as for clarity is the board is not being asked to review the project because we can't. We're being asked to review the modification. And so I hear the concern that was presented about the bull trout, and I don't disagree. The information that was presented shows that there's a problem. The problem is that that's not what this actual hearing is. It's only to look at what they're requesting because what their project is already improved. And so when I want to factor in specifically in terms of public comment, when you look at what they're changing, there wasn't actually not the whole project, just the reduction, because that's really what this is. This is a reduction. Barring my question about how are we doing another extension, and I'm going to read that code specifically, they're actually decreasing the impact on the modification, not the full project. And that is, I reviewed the concerns brought forward by everybody, but that's a distinguishing difference between what this board's being asked to do. And so when I look at, because this request is inclusive of an additional 2 years, I'm going to specifically cite the authority for that. Because when you're looking in your 12266 modification of terms and conditions of approval, and then you go down to extensions and expiration, it is very clear that it is that we can grant one additional time extension. And so I will appreciate that Mr. Grimm is saying that that was put in before, but they've already been given a time extension. And so that is the rule that I'm going to use to say that part of this request has the modification for an additional time period, but according to 1226661, extension of expiration date, it allows for a very stated one additional time extension not to exceed 2 years. That has already been achieved, therefore that's not something that I believe is appropriate on this one. On the other items, when you look at this change, it is a reduction in all of the other footprints. And so that's really what they're asking to do, is to reduce their exposure. I can't go into, are they doing this for a good reason, a bad reason? None of that matters. It's just that the footprint, they're reducing the footprint. And so when I go through the file solely based on the modification, it isn't the full project. That's the only thing that I can look at. I can't look at the other elements, because if you look in contrast, if the board were to vote no on their modifications, what they get is the full project, which is bigger than what the modification really is showing them. That's what is being put before the board. We're not being asked about the full plan that they have, because that already got passed. And the way in which to argue with the full project was to have appealed the decision once they got that granted, not at a hearing like this. This is only modification. And so you'll hear kind of when we do deliberation on the actual worksheet, the line by line of what we're being asked to review. And I'll specifically state, I can't consider this because it's not part of the modification. So some of the information that the public brought forward in public comments, it's part of the overall project, but not part of what they're asking in terms of the modification. And so that's my position on this one. They already got the thing that everybody's having an issue with in the public comment, they already received that. That's not what this hearing is about.
Thank you for explaining that.
You want to go
No,
line by
really,
line now?
you look
No?
at me like you're surprised.
Is this on record?
I wanted to clarify that
Yeah.
too. So yeah, if you're ready to start going down the worksheet, I'm ready.
And I didn't have an actual worksheet in mind, so I just went line by line, and if you tell me if I miss one. So 12266D, the standards in this review.
So we have A, B, C, D, and E.
And for all of that, this was already allowed. So there's nothing about the proposal of the modification that we're addressing here.
So we're okay with saying yes
Yes.
on those.
Yep. 12251C, no part of the proposal modified the findings in the original decision in relationship to the document, because the proposal is a modification.
Okay, hold on a second, 252. The next one should be the Bonner County Revised Code 12-652B.
I said I was going to go line by line and give a comment on the things we're not addressing. So
I would just like to go line by line so that,
that is, your line is skipping to the only ones that we're considering. I'm adding in the ones that are review for the modification and putting in the comment there that says no part amends this.
okay, so you're going to add some to this worksheet? Is that what I'm hearing?
I went top to bottom of the whole code because I didn't have a blank one in the
Okay.
electronic file.
So
So
which one are you on right now?
12251C. So you just stick to where your first one is on the worksheet they gave you, because my answer is no part of the proposal modifies the findings in the original decision. BCRC 12 states uses permitted within planned unit developments. My answer is no part of the proposal of modification modifies the findings in the original decision. BCRC 12256 A through E. A, common open spaces. The open space has been enlarged. B, owners association, no part of the proposal modified the original findings. C, covenants, articles of incorporation, the proposal does not modify. Development density, the proposal density is less than the allowed density. BCRC 12332, residential use table, there was no modification. 12333, there was no modification. BCRC 12335, the modification reduces and mitigates by restoration of that waterway. BCRC 12335, note 6, the proposal is similar to the same, there's no new proposal there, and it's a reduction. BCRC 12335, note 7, there's a new fire turnaround that has been approved by Sam Owen Fire. 12412, it's lower density. 12412, there's no change. 12421, there's no change. 12432, there's no change. 12621, there's no change. 12622, there's no change. There's also, they didn't include it, and the floodplain manager was clear on that. 12623, water and sewer systems were already approved under the original application. BCRC 12623D, fire protection was addressed and Sam Owens provided an updated letter regarding the turnaround. BCRC 12624C, there's a new fire turnaround. BCRC 12626, environmental feature, no change. BCRC 12626B, no change. BCRC 12626C1, lots 2 through 5 were already approved, so they're not subject to this review. BCRC 12633A, there are no new changes. BCRC 12633B, no part of the proposal modifies the findings. BCRC 12633C, no part of the proposal modifies the findings. BCRC 12633D3, no part of the proposal modifies those findings. BCRC 12633E, no part of the proposal modifies those findings. BCRC 12633F, there's no modification to those findings. BCRC 12633, prior approval, which this modification hearing is not addressing. BCRC 12633, there's no change. BCRC 12633, 633H and then 633K1. The proposed road change is similar to the original proposed plan. We specifically addressed the cluster lot comment there. BCRC 12636, lots 2 through 5 were already approved. BCRC 12636, there's no modification. BCRC 12636, there's no modification. BCRC 12256, there's no modification. BCRC 12412, there's no modification. BCRC 12412, lots 2 through 5 were already approved and are not subject to re-review. BCRC 12412, there was no change. BCRC 12412, there was no change. BCRC 12432, there was no change. BCRC, did you say time? There's a lot there, and I'm going through it specifically to also highlight to the community that most of this wasn't for us to review. Most of this was already done. So I want it clear for that point. BCRC 12432, there was no change. BCRC 12621, there was no change. BCRC 12624B, there's no change. BCRC 12624D, it's a similar to the original plan. There's a slight change. BCRC 12713, there was no change. BCRC 12733, there's no change. BCRC 12445, there's no change. BCRC 12446, there's no change. BCRC 12486B1, there's no change. BCRC 12623, water and sewer systems were already approved. That's not part of this review. BCRC 12624, there is no change. And so the only thing that they're asking us to do is go down, outside of removing their extension request that they've conceded is not necessary as part of it.
So there was 4, I was trying to follow you best I could. There was 4 that I did not hear. So I would like to confirm that you mentioned those.
Okay, you go through your 4.
Starting with the lowest number first, it would be 12-621. Submerged lands.
Let me go back, 621. I said no change.
Okay. 12-626B.
I did not do 626, I did 624D.
So we have 626B and C.
Let's go on to a different. Okay, what's your position on 626?
That there's no conflict with either one.
626, application proposal is similar to the same environmental features, natural hazards.
Yep.
Okay.
And
There's no
then,
change?
so we agree on that.
Yes.
And then the only other one I think was 12-652 that I did not hear.
I skipped that one too. So what is that one?
Zone change, and we're not changing.
We're not, there's
being
no
asked.
change, yes.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, that was all that I had on those. So I think we're in agreement that it does meet all of our criteria, and it is in compliance.
I believe, I agree, noting the modification, removing the modification to add an additional time frame on completion of the project.
Yes, number 6 there. So if you're ready, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve file M0D003-24 for modification.
3 zeros.
0003-24.
Yes.
For modification, removing the additional time from the request. I'm going to say that with applicant's agreement for removal. And requesting that staff make that adjustment in the findings of fact. To include the changes shown on the new site plan and proposed in application and as outlined in the staff report, find that it is not in conflict with the policy of Bonner County Comprehensive Plan and Bonner County Revised Code as enumerated in the following conclusions of law. Conclusion 1, the proposed conditional use permit is not in conflict with the policies of Bonner County Comprehensive Plan as reviewed in accord with BCRC Title 12, Chapter 2, Subchapter 2.66. Conclusion 2, the proposal was reviewed for compliance with the criteria and standards set forth at BCRC Title 12, Chapter 2, Subchapter 2.66. The proposal is in accord with the Bonner County Revised Code. Conclusion 3, the proposed modification will not create a hazard or will not be dangerous to persons on or adjacent to the property. The decision is based upon the evidence submitted up to the time the staff report was prepared and the testimony received at this hearing. I further move to adopt the reasoned statement as discussed in deliberation at this hearing and the analysis as set forth in the staff report or as amended during this hearing, and direct planning staff to draft the reasoned statement to reflect the motion set forth in Idaho Code Section 6535, have the chair sign and transmit to all interested parties. This action does not result in a taking of private property. The action that could be taken to obtain the approval for the modification to the conditional use permit is complete. The conditions of approval as adopted.
I will step down and second that. For planning staff, do we need to add in the proposed conditions of approval or not? Okay, thank you. Any further deliberation?
Nope.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Ford?
Yes. All right. It is 3:06 and this hearing is adjourned. I guess I should say